for the big broadcast.
We're not professional podcasters.
Say what?
We barely know what we're doing,
It's funny because it's true.
but we have fun anyway.
I'm here to podcast.
Does everybody know what time it is?
We're going streaky! Yeah!
No, we're not. It's time for movies, pop culture, and more with the all-new Culture Cast, starting now. I'm Nick, and this is the all-new Culture Cast. Thanks for tuning in. This is actually the second part of a two-part episode where my wife, aka the Kiwi, and I are discussing our recent trip to Ireland for our honeymoon. If you missed last week's episode, I'll make sure I put the link in the show notes. Now let's continue with Irish Honeymoon Part 2. When we left there, we got dinner at a local pub. I think we were trying to walk around for a while before we found the place.
We did, because we almost ate at the hotel restaurant again. Like, at our hotel restaurant. And then we finally, the one restaurant we decided on, it was going to be a wait. So we're like, nope. So we went down the next one, and they had like a restaurant upstairs where we both ordered fish and chips. And this time, this is my first fish and chips. And this time, the mushy peas were like a side dish on. Like, it was huge. Mm-hmm. It was at least half a cup, 3/4 cup of like mushy peas on your plate that they put the fish and chips over. I thought these were okay tasting. They tasted more like fresh peas that they cooked a little bit and then pureed them.
Yeah.
They weren't like raw, but they weren't like out of a can. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we, the hotel we wound up at, very friendly staff. When we came back, I think from dinner, we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do the following day, because there are two options we could do. We could either go on what's known as the Ring of Kerry, which is a giant street that goes around the not continent, but the countryside of Kerry, the area, the Ireland, or go to the Dingle Peninsula. I guess both have their ups and downs, but you really can't do both in one day. So we were talking to the front desk lady, who I guess was originally from. She had a weird backstory. She was all over the place.
She did, and she was on like a soccer team, a professional soccer team.
Yeah, from some was it Argentina or something like that? Or,
I was gonna say even Iceland.
Yeah, it was somewhere that wasn't Canada, where she was originally from, and yeah, they had that, and then she wound up being this desk clerk in Ireland here, which was.
Yeah, because she said it was really easy to get like a visa, like for Canadians to get a visa to go to Ireland for like a couple of years. So her and her friend almost seemed like on a whim wanted to travel, so they wound up in Ireland.
Yeah. So she recommended we go to the Dingle Peninsula because she felt it was a little bit better. Mm-hmm. And we did, and it was okay.
Yeah. We should also note that it's funny because I made this whole outline because you think I'm like this really organized person, and I am for the most part, but we did not plan our trip for Ireland until the night before. Like each day we planned out. It was, and that's part of the reason why we were asking staff, hey, what do you recommend? Because, it's not that we didn't want to. It was like the lack of time trying to plan everything up until the very end. Mm. So we got by. I think
it worked out fine.
We did everything we wanted to. We wound up the next day going to the Dingle Peninsula. I will say this. They said if you do the Ring of Kerry, as Nick mentioned earlier, that the roads are very narrow. They said if you do the Ring of Kerry, you have to, I thought they said enter it clockwise, because they said the roads are so narrow that you do not want to meet a bus going down that road. And I think we entered the Dingle Peninsula in the wrong direction as well, because we met a lot of traffic from the other direction.
Yeah.
But we tried. 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 I'd say this was a day that we were probably most confused about directions in the peninsula.
Yeah, and we also didn't know what to do in the peninsula, which also didn't
I
help
know.
matters. We got there, I think, fairly early in the morning, and
Yeah.
we were walking around. We saw a couple of cats in the window.
I took pictures of them.
We tried to go to the tourist building, and like, hey, what's there to do? And they're like, stuff. Here's a map. Figure it out. And
she was slightly more detailed, but here's my problem. There was a brewery and a distillery in the Dingle Peninsula, and we're like, well, which one's better? And she's like, I can't tell you which one, but she's like, the brewery's here and the distillery's here. Now, I get that she can't tell us which one's better because, she can't show favoritism to one place, but she didn't even describe what they had. She could have said, she didn't even say what they distilled. I think it was a gin distillery, and I couldn't even tell you what the beer was. But she could have said what it was. She's like, oh, if you like gin or whatever, you should go here. If you like blah, 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 you should go to the brewery. It was just like, this is what we have. Make your own, choices.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say of all the Irish people, she was probably my least favorite.
Yeah, she wasn't the greatest.
And honestly, I don't think I had a problem with any of the Irish people except her. And it's not that she was mean, but she wasn't helpful.
Yeah, I don't know if she was about ready to go on her break or what, but yeah, meh.
Mm-hmm.
But we wound up, I don't even remember where we wound up going. I think we wound around, we met some baby lamb to pet for €3. We found these beehive houses, which were, what was the story behind them?
I don't, because there was really no information. It was, this guy literally had like a house along the peninsula, great view of the ocean. And, you see the sign that's like, hold a baby lamb. So, we went off to the side, and neither one of us held the lamb because it was big. I can't believe it was still considered a lamb. It was, how many months old did they say it was? I don't recall.
4 or
At least
5?
4, yeah. And it smelled horrible. I took my picture with it. It kind of looked like the lamb was posing. And then they had these beehives on property, which I think they might have been houses at one time. Like, you've seen one, you've seen them all.
Yeah, didn't he say that like the government pays him to make sure people don't mess with it or something?
He might. It could be. I mean, picture like an igloo made out of brick, and most of the tops were open. I mean, that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but allegedly the Star Wars was filmed off of there. Not sure if it actually was.
Well, we know that parts of the movie were filmed in Ireland. However, we're not sure if we actually saw what was the filming site.
Yeah.
Like, we were told different information, like, oh, you could see it from the Dingle Peninsula, or no, you couldn't see it. We randomly pulled off the side of the road, like, just looking at the beautiful views, and there happened to be a sign that said Star Wars, and it was like a telescope that pointed to an island. So, I mean,
There was such a random telescope, too. It's like, and the sign was so small, you think if you wanted people to look, they'd have it a little bit bigger, but...
I know. And, I mean, for the Star Wars fans, this would be like the last scene of
The Force
Episode
Awakens.
7. Yeah, The Force Awakens. So, we may have seen the filming site. We're just not sure. Was it Skellig Island?
Yeah. Skellig? Skellig?
Skellig?
Something
Yeah.
like that. So, we wound up at a seafood restaurant for lunch. You had salmon, I had a beef wrap.
Yeah, although I regret not ordering the lobster because the people next to us ordered a lobster, and that thing was giant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We saw those people later on in the day, too.
We did, because we saw them at the restaurant that night.
After that, we went to, what was it, a waterfall?
Yeah, also recommended by the hotel staff.
Which was a giant walking path. And they had multiple paths, depending on how much you wanted to walk. And you can't get more nature than that, honestly.
No, and we didn't really read the signs about which paths you should take. You just looked at the waterfall, and I mean, you can only stare at a waterfall for so long. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, well, while we're here, let's walk around. And we ended up on a path that took us about an hour, didn't it?
I felt like it was a little bit longer than that, but it was very long. Been.
Yeah, which it was great. I mean, you get to a point where it's like, do we turn back? Like, how long is this path? Eventually we did make it back, but there was a few, like a small time period where I was like, do we need to turn back? Because it was also starting to get dark, like it was at dusk.
Yeah. But we made it. We survived.
Mm-hmm. We did.
So we wound up back at Canary that night because we were there for 2 nights. We had dinner at a pub. You had a seafood plate, and I had this pie stew.
My love of seafood, I couldn't turn it down. I will say that some of that seafood was very overcooked, and I don't know if that's how the Irish prefer it or if it just was accidentally overcooked. I wasn't sure. Like, it was still good, but it wasn't great.
Mm-hmm. But on the flip side, though, that's the first night we had the Bailey's cheesecake.
It is, and it was something I kept seeing on every single menu was Bailey's cheesecake. Lunch, dinner, they always had it on there. I was like, Nick, let's try the Bailey's cheesecake. And I don't think you were excited about it. You're like, okay, I'll try. We scarfed that thing down.
Yeah, it was tasty.
It was not like American cheesecake, where American cheesecake is very dense. This was the exact opposite. It was very light and fluffy. We started ordering the cheesecake after that, but this was by far my favorite cheesecake.
Mm-hmm. So the next day we went to Galway, or at least we headed our way towards there.
It's actually pronounced Galway.
Galway.
The Irish corrected us.
Yeah, I still can't. Normally on the podcast, I can't pronounce actors and actresses' names. That's a thing. That's our listener expects that from us. From me.
Our listener, there's only one.
So I'm going to extend that to locations as well. Part of the way to get there, was this on the way to the Cliffs of Moher?
It
we had
was.
to take the ferry.
Yeah.
We had to drive onto a ferry boat, and the ferry took us to the other side of the road. And what was not fascinating, but what was interesting is like we got there right as the ferry was leaving, like we're the second to last car in. And by the time we got on there and stopped our car and everything, and we got out, I turned to you, I'm like, oh, we're moving, because
I know, like you can't even feel it.
Yeah, and it was quick. Like the car went in, and the minute they put the gate up, they were off. So.
And I think they only had the one ferry operating. And so it was like about a 20-minute ride to the other side, and then it's like a 20-minute ride back. So it would have been at least an hour had we missed that ferry.
Oh, easily so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they had like buses on this ferry and a lot of cars. I mean, it was a good-sized ferry. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how long they waited in between stops to go back around.
That's a good question, yeah.
Yeah, we definitely, someone was looking out for us.
Yeah. So we checked out the Cliffs of Moher, and what these cliffs are, they're just these jagged cliffs off to the, looking over the ocean there. And part of the visitor center, they would, back in the day, people would cliff dive to get various animals and seafood and things. Horribly dangerous. I can't believe people actually did this. Now it's more of a touristy thing, but it was neat. I mean, once you, not to downplay it, but once you see one, you're kind of like, okay, saw it all. And after we got to a certain part, like the bugs were just like flying in our face, and it was super windy.
It was windy, and it's also dangerous. Like there are certain parts where
like walk at your own risk.
Definitely walk, yeah. And then once you get past the point, it's like, yeah, walk at your own risk, which it was scary. I don't want to, downplay how like literally you run wrong step, you fall off that cliff. Like, you're that close to the edge.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, I mean, how long can you stare at the cliffs? Like, they were pretty, but there's enough things to do in the day that you don't want to stay there too long, because then you miss out on other things.
Yeah. But then we were there for a little bit. Then we headed out. We got lunch at a nearby cafe that took American dollars, if I'm not mistaken. Or at least they charged us American dollars.
They did, but the only place asked us if we wanted to add on a tip, which she was very sweet. Right. So I was like, okay, you can throw a couple $dollars on there, you know, because I mean, they don't work for tips like American, you know.
The waitress was she was friendly, and she was kind of telling us how during the year their times will change based on, you know, 'cause I guess it seems like they get mostly food off of tourism, but.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they were not open for dinner at that time of the year.
Yeah, that was it.
I don't know if they closed like at 2 or 3, whatever, but it didn't warrant being staffed at night for dinner because they were that slow.
So, you got a steak sandwich. I got a chicken wrap. I remember liking that chicken wrap.
I remember liking my steak sandwich.
So, not a bad little place.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to the hotel that night, and this was my least favorite hotel of all time.
Yeah, well, like, here's the problem that I had, is that it wasn't necessarily the hotel that was bad, but it was in a bad location.
It was in a bad location.
Every hotel that we stayed at, you could walk. This one, you couldn't walk to, like anything. You had to drive. Mm-hmm. And by the time we get to the hotel at night, it's very late. Neither one of us felt like driving to find dinner. You know, we tried asking the staff. You know, she was willing to call us a taxi if we wanted, but I was like, we'll just eat dinner in the hotel. Which the tour group, the bus tour group that was kind of following us along, they also ate dinner in the hotel, not at the restaurant, but they had their own private room.
That's right. Yeah.
The food. This was by far the worst food we had on the trip.
Yeah, it was just. Here's the thing, the food here wasn't great, but I enjoyed just spending time with you, and also you were. I can't tell if you were getting upset with me or not, because I was having a little bit more to drink that night than I had in previous nights. And well, I guess I was getting kind of loud for you.
You were. I mean, between the two of us, I definitely drink more than you. Not that I'm trying to sound like the alcoholic, but you know. For example, last night when we went out to dinner with friends, I was the only one who had a drink. But you have like 2 drinks max.
That night I think I had a little bit more. Oh, I mean on average. Yeah, on average. Yeah. Well,
yeah, because like we didn't have to drive anywhere. We were literally in the hotel. So that was the beauty part, was that the food was bad, but the company was great. Because you ordered a burger that apparently it comes already cooked, and they just reheat it. Because you wanted your burger, like, was it medium rare? And they're like, oh, it's already cooked.
Yeah, I mean, not that the Irish are known for their burgers, but I'm thinking, I'm in a pub. I'm sure they might put an interesting burger. So I'll try that. And it's like, it's like I got an Olive Garden meal.
Yeah, you know, I don't remember what was on that menu. I remember it was very small. And I ordered a curry dish, which it was okay. But, you know, I didn't go to Ireland to eat curry, and I love curry. You know, I want to try other foods, and nothing on that menu was, like, appetizing. I also remember the bartender was kind of, like, probably thinking I was crazy because I was asking for drinks. I asked for a margarita, and was like, oh, I don't know how to make that.
Yeah.
And then I might have asked for a mojito. I don't remember. And then finally I was like, just give me a glass of red wine.
I remember I asked for a screwdriver, and he looked at me puzzled because they called something else there.
Okay, I don't remember that.
He was like,
"Did you get a screwdriver? Because I thought you had beer, or did you have both?"
I think I had both. Because I asked for a screwdriver because I wanted something a little bit heavier. I didn't want to have beer again, and he looked at me. He's like, "That's orange juice, right?" I'm like, yeah.
Oh, that's okay. Now I can remember him saying that.
They call it something else there, I think. But I don't remember what the name of it was, but yeah, it comes with a different name overseas. But yeah, so that was kind of a lackluster dinner there. But to me, my main problem with the hotel was that the beds were super uncomfortable.
Oh, wait, but before we get to sleeping, remember how we spent the next 2 hours watching our new favorite program?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so in Ireland, we found this on the first day by accident when we just needed some background noise, so we turned on the TV. And we came across a TV channel called The Verge, which
The Vault.
The Vault. I'm sorry, The Vault, which is plays music videos of classic songs. Well, classic being a relative term, but stuff from
I think it was mostly 90s.
90s stuff, yeah. And it was fantastic. We would put it on in every single hotel, except our last one because it didn't have it, which we were very saddened about. But yeah, it was great. It was absolutely great.
It was very addictive. It was like, you're tired, but you're like, but I gotta watch one more video.
Yeah. And they'd be doing like countdowns on boy bands or something.
Yeah, did they have a boy band one, or was it like a 90s one?
Maybe it was a 90s one, but it was something like Where Are They Now or One Hit Wonders.
Yeah, and like all the artists except like 2 were American.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's relative, because I think the Spice Girls were on there, but like Mariah Carey and
Aqua.
Yeah, Aqua. Are they American though? I'm not sure they are American.
I don't know.
But it was like all the songs that you would hear in America.
Mm-hmm. So, the following day, second day, we were in Galway. Did I say that right?
Galway.
Well, you made a cat friend, which you were upset that I didn't let you take it with.
Oh my God, this cat! You stopped to get gas, and did you notice a cat first? I think you might notice there was a cat, and I called it kitty cat, and the cat came running over to the fence. There's a fence in between us, and this cat was letting me pet it. I was like, oh man, this is such a friendly cat. But I was like, oh, I can't stand here all day. So we went inside, used the restroom, grabbed a drink, and we got back out, and the cat was gone. And I was like, I wonder what will happen. And I called like kitty cat, and like you hear this far distant meow, and then you keep hearing it, and it keeps getting louder and louder. And that cat came running back to me and was letting me pet it. And I took pictures of this cat again.
You're like, Nick, we should take it home with us. I'm like, we can't get it onto the plane, let alone.
Yeah, and our current cats, one would definitely be upset if we brought back another cat. The other one would probably be like, maybe this one will play with me.
Yeah. Max, our dog, would be like, whatever.
Yeah.
But we went to one of the neater places I think we checked out when we were in Ireland, Kylemore Abbey, which was a pain in the neck to get to because like these winding roads and everything. But this abbey was originally built by some rich guy back in the 1800s for his wife. And unfortunately his wife passed away a couple of years after the abbey was built. And eventually the family sold the abbey to a bunch of nuns, and so the nuns lived there, and they transformed it into an all-girls school. And the school was there for 50, 60 years? Yeah, for a long, long time. I think it started around World War II, and then just recently closed up about 10 years or so ago.
Oh, was it even 10? I thought it was more like 5 or 6.
Maybe you're right. I think 2009 was the last class.
Like 2009. I think it was like Benedictine education.
Yeah, I think 2005 was the last class of new girls they took, if I remember correctly.
That could be right.
But it closed up, but the nuns still live there doing whatever it is the nuns do. But now they turned it into a sort of a tourist location where you could walk around the place. You can't go through all of it because nuns still live there.
I was surprised at how far you couldn't get in this abbey.
Yeah, because it's huge on the outside, but on the inside, it's like you can go in like 3-4 rooms. But whatever, I guess. But they make a lot of stuff there. We bought a couple of marmalades there, and we got some Irish cream for your mother there.
Yep, made on property.
Made on property.
Or at least by the nuns. I'm actually not sure if it was made on property, but it was made exclusively by the Kylemore Abbey.
Yeah. We walked around the area. We saw there was a small church there with a little cemetery of the family who built the place. And we ate food at the place because it was really, if we didn't eat there, we weren't going to eat lunch essentially.
Right. Didn't we see the gardens before that?
Like we did. Yes.
The shuttle to the other side, which you could walk. It was like about a mile to walk, and we have no problem walking a mile, but it was like a time saver type of a thing.
Yeah.
Where we hopped in the shuttle, and they had this huge garden that was, surrounded by a wall. And like they had vegetables in this garden. They had, flowers. They even had like a house in this garden where, the head gardener would live and take care of the property.
Yeah. So that was kind of cool. It's a beautiful garden too.
Yeah.
But so eventually that night we went back to the town. We kind of walked around the town, and we wound up at a cathedral where we happened to sit down and Mass began.
It did.
Not that we were opposed to going to Mass, but we weren't really expecting to. So we're like, well, we're here, why not? And he spoke in English, so that was helpful. I wasn't sure if they still do Latin Masses over there. But the most fascinating thing was that there was a visiting choir from Chicago that was singing at that particular Mass.
Yeah, we hear these people. I mean, they're in the pews near us, and we could hear them talking. We're like, but they don't sound like they're Irish, And then when the priest gets up there, he's like, "Welcome, our Chicago choir." I was like, "Whoa!"
And what was funny was the leader of the choir. I saw him collecting his baggage when we were coming home.
Did.
Like, I know that guy. Part of me wanted to go up to him, but I was like, "Nah, it's not worth it."
Well, I guess it's not uncommon apparently, because we ran to another church group. They tour Ireland, visiting all the churches and cathedrals, and that's kind of how they make their way around Ireland.
Yeah,
so I thought that was fascinating.
And then that night we had probably my favorite meal there. I had the mussels at this dinner. It was a bar, but it was like an upscale type bar.
It was, and we got one of the last, I think, seats there too.
That's right, because I think they were stopping dinner service. Were they, or was it just getting crowded?
I think it was getting crowded. Because I thought they served dinner late there. I could be wrong.
But, yeah, and you had another fish and chips. I had the mussels, which were delicious.
Yeah, I don't remember those fish and chips specifically, other than that I had them, so I don't think they were that memorable.
And, of course, we asked them what the cheesecake of the day was, and what was it?
It was Bailey's.
Yeah.
This one might have been my least favorite. Actually, no, I think the cheesecake we had at the hotel the previous day was my least favorite. I don't recall.
That first one was so good, probably because it was the first time we had it.
But like, it was the first cheesecake we had, it still was reminiscent of cheesecake. These other ones were more just like a dessert that wasn't cheesecake.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So then the following day, we headed out to the Kilbeggan Distillery because we were making our way back to Dublin, believe it or not. And we tried to sign up for a time to do a tour. Because I think we had a voucher to go do this tour, if I'm not mistaken. No, we didn't. It was just on
the suggestion list. Which I only got Wi-Fi in the hotels at most places. So the morning at breakfast, I tried to sign us up for a private tour that was happening in a few hours. only for them to send an email like shortly after we left saying it was already full.
Oh, I thought we sent the email the night before. I guess it doesn't make a difference, but yeah.
Yeah, we did at breakfast. We talked about it the night before. So we get there and they're like, it's full. And we're like, oh, you caught on. I didn't catch on right away, but they were like, there was another tour that was starting, but it was a private tour. I didn't catch on that it was private. Mm-hmm. And they were like, well, you can go through the tour, but pay for the extra tastings because the private or the guided tours, they only had like 2 a day. That was the thing. They had like 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. The guided tours came like with a set of 3 tastings. And if you did your own tour, self-guided, it was 1 tasting. And they're like, well, you can, go with this other tour group, but pay for the extra tastings. It was about halfway through that I realized we were on someone's private tour, which I felt kind of bad about. But I was like, they were pretty friendly. Apparently, they were another church group from New York.
Mm-hmm. And then none of the priests were like throwing back the whiskey.
I know. At the end of the tour, when you actually got to taste the whiskey, the priest and the nuns were first in line trying to get their drinks. We found out we are not whiskey drinkers. I'm still stand by my decision that if you say that you're the driver, they will give you a tasting to go. So you and I split essentially one person's tasting. Yet 1 sip of whiskey of each flavor was enough for me.
Yes, me too.
You could definitely taste the distinctive taste between the different whiskeys. It's not for me. I tried. But fun fact that this distillery is the oldest distillery in Ireland. There was another distillery that apparently got their alcohol license, before this one, but they did not start making whiskey until after the Kilbeggan distillery. So if you go try whiskey, Kilbeggan is the oldest one.
Yeah, that was actually the tour was interesting altogether, I thought, because I don't know much about making whiskey, but this is fascinating.
I mean, in an odd way, it reminded me of like the Blarney Castle, because like that Blarney Castle was like old, and it's what you think of. This distillery, it was old. Now, granted, the parts we toured, they don't use anymore, but they still work. Like if you were to make whiskey in that building, you still could. They built a newer one that was right next door. And how long did they say the whiskey has to set? Was it like
3 years, right?
3 years and 1 day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like if you start making whiskey, you go in debt before you can make a profit, like way in debt.
Mm-hmm.
3 years before you can start selling that whiskey. It's amazing like how they can keep up with, supply and demand, because 3 years, you have to try and guess. That's fascinating to me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that blows my mind that they have to do it like that, but I mean, I guess that's how they have to do it. So after a quick snack at the whiskey place, we drove back to Dublin. And throughout the whole trip, I was trying to get you to drive just a little bit, just so you can experience
I know
it.
you were. I know.
And you refused to do it. But whatever. We got back to Dublin. One thing I forgot to mention is that
the roundabouts.
Yeah, the roundabouts.
Yeah.
They don't believe in turning. They have roundabouts or stop signs.
They don't believe in stop signs. Yeah.
They have roundabouts everywhere.
You became a pro at the roundabouts.
I actually kind of like the roundabouts now. I wish we had it here. I think. Well,
the smaller ones were okay. There was a few that were 1 lane that turned into 2, but then it exited back into 1. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like, if you go into the middle lane, you're still going to have to cross over and exit into 1 lane.
Well, that's true. That is a little wacky, but...
I think there's only one, like that one, that was really bad. Otherwise, the majority were smaller, like 1 lane, where it's like, yeah, hey, you don't have to stop as long as someone wasn't going to, run into you. Mm-hmm. It was smart.
But, so we went back in Dublin, where I navigated the streets, I think, pretty well, as crazy as they were. And different hotel that we stayed in before, we dropped our stuff off. We got lunch at this sort of trendy bar. And I don't remember what I ate, but I drank my Orchard Thieves, which I guess before we went to Ireland, we were told two things: that you drink your Guinness, and there's a great cider there called Bloomers.
Bloomers.
I tried Bloomers. I'm a big fan of. I'm not a big beer drinker, but what I do like to drink, I like the Angry Orchard and something like that. So I tried Bloomers. I thought it was okay, but then I tried this other one called Orchard Thieves because someone else recommended it, saying, "Oh, it's better than Bloomers." And I agree with whoever that person was, because you did not taste the alcohol in that at all. And
see, that's why I didn't like it, because it tasted like apple juice to me. Bloomers had a little bit of a more beery, alcoholic taste.
I don't know. I like the Orchard Thieves a lot. So that was my go-to drink for when we were in Ireland there. When we were in Dublin, we wound up going to the middle of the town, or the town center, and walked around. We checked out this Stephen's Gardens, which is a big garden area in the middle of Dublin there. And it was the only day that it rained, the entire time we were there.
Yes, and we were told by my Irish coworkers to prepare for wind and rain. Now, granted, apparently we lucked out. I think it did rain in parts of Ireland where we had went there, but then the next day it rained. So we kept missing the rain. And it only rained very briefly. Very briefly. And we went in a cafe.
Yeah, it was like a cafe connected to a department store.
Which, to me, it was like a Macy's.
Yeah.
I think it was M&S is what it was called. And I ordered a mocha. Now, here's the thing. They gave me the mocha, and they're like, sugar's at the end. And I was thinking, okay, I'm not going to add more sugar to my mocha, right? I took one sip and realized there was no sugar at all in that mocha. I'm like, oh, that's why she told me there was sugar at the end. So I added 2 packs in, and it was sweet enough for me. I've never had that happen to me before.
So we walked around town, and we wound up going to dinner at this place that our horse cab driver told us about a week earlier, called O'Neill's, which was similar to the place we had dinner the previous night, where it was the previous night was a huge sort of multi-tiered, multi-styled bar. O'Neill's was I don't know how they designed this place. But
I have no idea either. It was like a fun house, but it was a bar. You'd walk in one room and you'd exit into you felt the opposite side of the bar. It was really weird.
Yeah. But and you had to go in, you had to find your own seat, which eventually we did find one.
Barely. It was because the gentleman was getting up and he was like, I'm going to be leaving shortly. Do you want our table? And we're like, yes.
Because there was one place we walked in and you're like, Nick, there's a seat. I'm like, it's right next to the kitchen. We can find another one. And then we couldn't right away. Mad at me because Nick, we should have taken that seat. I'm like, I know. But we found this other one. It worked out fine. We were sitting next to a father and daughter that seemed really awkward with one another. And
how they weren't talking to each other, they were staring at the wall.
Yeah.
It was very weird.
It's very weird. But and I know this is a type of restaurant. I don't know the name of it. You might know this one, Kiwi, but where it's not quite a buffet, but you go up there, you give your order, and then they give it to you right then and there, and then you go back to your seat. Unless it's something that cooks a little bit longer, in which case they come and drop it off. But
what you're talking about. But no, I don't recall.
Yeah. And then you had to go up to the bar, a separate bar, to get your drinks. So it was a very unique experience.
But your dish, you ordered the shepherd's pie we had already made behind the counter.
Yes.
And I ordered the fish and chips, which they had to make. So you had to get a number.
Yeah.
They brought the fish and chips out to me.
Because I was almost done with my food by the time yours came.
Yeah, I mean, you were eating very slow, but I didn't think it took that long to get, if I recall.
Maybe not. maybe my memory's playing tricks on me.
I didn't know how they were going to find us, to be honest, because that place was so confusing. Like, I get if you work there, you get used to it, but it's like, this place was so huge, I'd be like, where are these people sitting, you know?
I would think the same thing. And so that was our night. We went back to the hotel and just kind of crashed.
You know, before we got back to the hotel, though, that Irish couple, like, we were literally just walking around, you know, it was our last day in Dublin. We just kind of want to chill, because like, this trip is great, but it's also exhausting because you're essentially driving to a new place every single day. So it's not like you can unpack your clothes for the whole week. Like, you're living out of your suitcase. You know, we had already been at Dublin on the first day. We just kind of wanted to chill. And apparently this Irish couple thought we might need directions, you know, probably look like lost Americans. But they took us to walk past a cathedral. And they were very friendly. Mm-hmm. I think they said they had been to the States, right? That they'd been to, like, California, I think, and maybe New York. They hadn't been to Chicago, though.
Yeah, I don't think they had, no. But, yeah, they were super friendly, and they're saying, oh, go here, do that. Oh, it's
yeah, like, they were like, we're heading that direction. You know, you can walk with us and everything. So, you know, by the time we got to the cathedral, I think it had just closed. So
yeah, we missed out on it.
We walked around it, and they had, like, a little garden park area in front of it, you know, sat down, because I think my feet were killing me by that day.
Yeah, mine too.
I was like, I gotta get off my feet for 5 minutes.
Yeah. So the next morning we woke up, made sure everything was packed, double packed all of our breakables in our suitcases, and headed out back to drop off our car, which worked out fine. I don't want to get into that, but going through the airport to go back to the U.S. was more of a hassle than leaving the U.S.
Oh my God. Well, see, here's the thing. When we got through the first security, I had on my flats, and they said if you had on high heels, you had to take them off. So I thought, okay, I'm safe, you know. Mm-hmm. So this time you also had to empty out, like, your liquids from your carry-on. You had to open it up, and I was like, okay, they're a little bit more strict, but, you know, it's fine. We made it through. Then we got to the tax and duty-free area, which I was super excited about buying my sister-in-law whiskey because she loves whiskey. I had it all planned out which brand I was going to get. I talked it out with my coworker. She told me which brands were good and affordable. So I picked it out. I got it. Only to find out that you go through customs over in Ireland to get into U.S. So you go from the tax and duty free into customs, and just as I got, like, everything packed away, like, I had a full bottle of whiskey in my carry-on.
Take it all out.
I know. She's like, you have to empty any large bottles of liquid. And I was like, I have a bottle of whiskey. I felt a tinge of judgment coming from the security person. And I had to take off my flats this time. Like, you had to take off your shoes no matter what you had on. Mm-hmm. You had to empty everything out. If you had, like, your tablets, your electronics, you had to put that in a separate bin.
Yeah,
I was like, oh my
intense.
God. It was. And it's just like, I had my suitcase packed, you know? Yeah. So then you go through, that was the worst part. Then, you know, I had a slight problem with the kiosk trying to recognize my passport, but we ended up getting it figured out. And then we had to wait for the plane, which it was jam-packed.
Yeah, I was like standing
that area. Mm-hmm. By the time we got there, though, I think we had, like, less than an hour, actually.
Yeah.
Like, it might have been, like, 30 minutes to load, but it was long enough waiting in that cramped area.
Yeah, I mean, it went by fast from getting to the airport to getting on the plane, but yeah, there were some parts that were a little annoying. We finally got on the plane, though, and then we had a window seat, which you were excited about.
Only to be very disappointed by my lack of sound in my earphones.
Yeah, everyone that was in your row all throughout the plane, I guess, had problems with their headphones, which was sad because we were planning on watching a movie together. We even had it synced up, ready to go, and then
we did.
It did not quite work. So that was. But they gave you a glass of red wine, so I guess that's something, right?
They did. I wish they would have offered me the internet instead, but they offered me magazines and a glass of red wine, and I was like, I'll take the
bottle.
Wine. Yeah, right.
Then
and they tried to reset the sound 3 times, and after the 3rd time, they're like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But everyone else in my row got sound in one ear. I was the only one who couldn't get sound, period.
Oh, you didn't have any sound. That's right.
Yeah, it was no sound. Everyone else could get it in one ear, which I would have taken one ear out of no ears, because it was like, what, a 7-hour flight coming back?
7 or 8, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it went by fast, I feel.
Yeah, when you told me that we could switch seats whenever I wanted, and I took you up on your offer like a couple hours before the plane landed, so I watched one movie.
Yeah.
For that point, like, I was also starting, I think, to get a little motion sickness, and I was tired, and I was just like, I want off this plane now.
And you're like, why are we not landing yet? Because we're not there yet, Krista.
I kept looking at because they had like a map, you could see like where the plane was. Mm-hmm. I kept looking at that because I'm like, how close are we?
Although what was kind of cool is when we were landing to Chicago, we flew over Wrigley Field, and it was bright lights because it was the first.
They had a game going on that night.
Yeah, I think it was like the not the World Series. They weren't in it quite yet, but it was the one of the final playoffs before they got into it. So
yeah,
that was kind of neat to see that. But yeah, we landed, and we had a little delay with some of our luggage, but eventually that came out, and that was our trip.
Yes, I do want to go over a couple of the highlights.
Okay.
You were told by a coworker's friend that there was a 2-drink limit. Now, I had asked my Irish coworkers about that, and they're like, no such thing. And it wasn't true. I mean, I don't even think there was one night where we had drinks at one time. Maybe the hotel.
Yeah.
We might have had 3, but, you know, the people around us definitely had more than 2 drinks.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what that person was talking about. She made no sense whatsoever, but whatever.
I also learned that to go equals takeaway.
Yeah. So
if you want like a coffee to go, you say, I'd like a takeaway coffee.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. Oh, and the sheep. Now, we noticed right when we got to Dublin, you know, or outside the country field, you saw sheep everywhere, and they were spray painted different colors. Now, it was like a few days into the trip when we found out the reason why they're spray painted is because they don't fence their sheep. So that way the farmers know which sheep is theirs.
And the sheep sit in the most bizarre spots.
They do. Like, they literally sit, like, right next to the road. Like, some even on the road. And they're not fazed by cars flying past them.
Like, sup, guys? It was, the sheep were interesting. But... yeah. In regards to the coffee, I had the Baileys and coffee. I could not bring myself to drink the Irish coffee because I wanted to like try the, you know, traditional Irish coffee, because I think the main difference between Irish coffee and American Irish coffee is that the Irish use cream and the Americans use whipped cream. I couldn't find like a consistent American recipe that was like standardized, but you know, the Irish coffee is coffee with sugar, and then they pour in the whiskey, and then they top it off with the cream. I do it. I'm not a drinker. And you couldn't, you don't drink coffee, so. No, I do not.
That was all me. Was driving on the other side of the road. I did not notice anyone doing this, so I don't think they have this rule. Like in America, you can turn right on red. It does not look like they turn left on red. Did you pick up on that? Because I didn't see anyone doing that. I was trying to watch like in like the bigger towns we went through.
You might be right on that. I hadn't noticed that carefully, but you're probably right.
And it did not seem like they enforced speed limits. Now, I'm not saying that they should have, because I think the average at least in the country fields, I think the average speed limit was like 80 kilometers, and even, which translated probably to like 60 miles per hour. So when you're on those country roads, going 60 miles per hour was too fast. Because you're going under speed most of the time. Because like you could see the GPS, it had like the speed limit on there, and the majority of the time you were under, which wasn't that you're driving slow, it felt unsafe to drive that fast.
Yeah, it really did.
And the only time we saw a cop was when we did witness one accident. Not happen, but like we were driving by after it happened. It was the only time we saw a cop.
Yeah, come to think, I'm thinking back now. We didn't see many cops at all, except when there was an accident. So,
and along with all the great views in Ireland, because the views are so great, there's always a place to pull off to the side of the road to look at the views.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a bunch of times we just stopped just to look at the view or get a picture or something. Because some of these views are just so surreal that it's like, you can't believe this is a real place.
I know. And the last thing I just want to talk about was the cheesy gift stores.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I love souvenirs, but I like nice souvenirs. And there was this chain called Carol's Irish Gifts. Most of the gifts, there were some nice gifts, but most of the gifts in that store were like the really cheesy Irish gifts. And I wanted to go up to the people who buy those and be like, why? I mean, like we did buy a few gifts from Carol's because, like I said, they had nicer items, but you know, you don't go to Ireland to buy like easy Irish gifts. I'm not even sure the Irish like those things.
Probably not.
But I did get a really nice coffee cup from there that did not say sold exclusively at Carol's. But it is what I drink my Baileys and coffee out of tonight, which I just finished. So I guess it's a good thing we about wrapped up this podcast.
Yeah. So I have really nothing else to say. I mean, I think we covered it all.
And that's your long answer.
Yeah. Looking at the recording here, we're clocking in at a little over 2 hours.
Yeah, I was thinking that we started like around 7 o'clock. I'm like, Nick's going to have a lot of editing.
Well, did you have fun being on the podcast, Kiwi?
I did. I'm not sure if this is going to be the first of many or just a one-time thing.
I was about to say, do you want to come back and do it again?
Let's hear feedback from our one viewer.
All right, sounds good to me. So, well, Kiwi, thank you for joining me this week for to discuss our trip to Ireland, and thank you out there for listening. And for myself, Nick, say your name.
And Kiwi.
Have a great day, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
You've been listening to the all-new Culture Cast, one of Chicagoland's finest podcasts.
You're making me fall asleep to death.
Well, I guess there's not much we can do about that. In the meantime, check out our blog at znculturecast.wordpress.com. Send us an email at nick.culturecast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback, comments, and requests. Follow us on social media. Theme music by bensound.com. This has been a Saltwater production, copyright 2017. Thanks for listening. Yeah, let's see what I have to do to kind of bring this under an hour. But maybe if need be, we'll split this into a 2-part episode. But,
dun dun dun.